それではまず最初のスピーカーのユージン・タンさんを壇上にお迎えしたいと思います。皆様拍手でお迎えください。
Good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to thank President Eriko Osaka, Director Mami Kataoka, and the team here at the National Center for Art Research for organizing this event and inviting me here to speak. The organization has been very efficient, and it's always a pleasure to be back here in Japan. Well, today I'll be speaking a bit about the National Art Museums in Singapore, which are the National Gallery Singapore and the Singapore Art Museum, or SAM. Art museums today function as anchor points in the fast-changing cultural landscapes of our societies. How can museums tell stories of art that are representative and responsive to the contemporary changing conditions of our society? How do national museums position themselves in a global context, connecting different histories and experiences while actively partaking in expanding involvement with local communities? I'll begin by explaining how national museums in Singapore are structured, followed by the strategic direction of the National Gallery Singapore and the Singapore Art Museum, the two national art museums. So all museums in Singapore, including at the time the Singapore Art Museum, used to be under the National Heritage Board, or the NHB. This was one of the two statutory boards under the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, along with the National Arts Council. So as you can see on the bottom left, the National Heritage Board oversees different museums in Singapore, including the National Museum, the Asian Civilizations Museum, and other cultural institutions. But in addition, it also oversees the National Collection, which is the collection of all the different museums in Singapore. And these are stored and preserved at the Heritage Conservation Center. In 2013, the Singapore Museum was devolved from the NHB and became part of the newly formed Visual Arts Cluster. And this was joined by the National Gallery Singapore, which opened in 2015, and also the Singapore Tyler Print Institute, which is a specialized print institution. In this presentation, I'll focus on the National Gallery Singapore and the Singapore Art Museum and elaborate further on their strategies, programs, and trajectories. I will show how the two institutions play a vital role in fostering a better understanding of the function and capacity of art in our society as national art museums. The establishment of art museums in Singapore was preceded by the formation of what was the Advisory Council for Culture and the Arts in 1989, with strategic directions and key initiatives to develop a culturally vibrant society. Following the ACCA's review of Singapore's cultural landscape and articulation of the importance of arts and culture in Singapore's society, the Singapore Art Museum, or SAM, as one of the proposed key institutions, was established and officially opened to the public in January 1996. SAM expanded its predecessor, the National Museum Art Gallery, which was established in 1976 as a department within the National Museum. The initial directives for the establishment of SAM were to address the limitations of the National Museum Art Gallery and the need to present and collect works by Singapore and Southeast Asian artists, along with developing scholarship surrounding contemporary Singapore and Southeast Asian art. The opening of the National Gallery Singapore in November 2015 is the newest addition to the changing public cultural and educational landscape in Singapore. The gallery was built on two converted national monuments, the former Supreme Court and City Hall, which were constructed in the 1920s and 1930s. Through the focus on presenting permanent collections of Southeast Asia and Singapore art, the gallery aims to examine the shared historical impulses in the region and highlight complexities and relationships between national and regional art histories. This is further complemented by projects that locate these developments within a global context. By doing so, the gallery envisions positioning the histories of art in Singapore and Southeast Asia as integral to global art histories. While SAM and National Gallery Singapore share the same history of their collection building under the umbrella of the National Collection, which also houses a collection of objects acquired by other national museums. namely the National Museum Singapore and the Asian Civilization Museum, as I mentioned. The National Collection, which is overseen by the National Heritage Board, saw its beginnings in a major donation to the state in 1960 by the late Dr. Lok Wan To, a prominent film entrepreneur, business magnate, and collector. And the artwork you see on the right was the very first work that was accessioned into the collection by Singaporean artist Chua Chan Ting. This donation became the basis of the National Museum Art Gallery's collection before it was subsequently relocated to SAM in 1996 and later to the National Gallery Singapore from 2009 to the present. To respond to new challenges of presenting practices and histories of Singapore and Southeast Asia within a global context, the distinct vision and museum strategies between SAM and National Gallery Singapore are mostly visibly located in their curatorial and collection strategies, as well as programs. The National Collection oversees the largest public collection of modern art in Singapore and Southeast Asia. Through its long-term displays of modern contemporary art from the 19th century to the present, and our temporary exhibitions, the gallery aims to present, reflexively rewrite, and examine the art histories of the region in relation to global art history. It is home to more than 9,000 artworks from across the region, from which the National Gallery's curatorial and research efforts are built. Currently, SAM's collection focuses on contemporary art more globally, with a Southeast Asian perspective. Reflecting the character of contemporary art, works represented in SAM's permanent collection span a broad spectrum of media and sensibilities, ranging from installation to video to photography, painting, sculpture, and others. SAM's collection now features numerous iconic works of contemporary Southeast Asian art, with an outlook toward incorporating more artists from other parts of the world. In order to look at global contemporary art from the perspective of Southeast Asia. The National Gallery's two long-term displays, Siapa Nama Kamu, which is Malay for What is Your Name? The title comes from a very important painting by a Singapore artist, as well as Between Declarations and Dreams, showcase our growing collection of Singapore and Southeast Asian art, which respectively present expansive narratives of Singapore's position as the crossroads of culture and the shared and divergent artistic impulses in the region since the 19th century. With the redevelopment of SAM's heritage buildings at the Bras Basah complex, SAM moved to our current physical location to Tanjong Pagar District Park in early 2022 as a way to take art programming into everyday spaces and closer to audiences. Taking over an industrial and expensive warehouse space, SAM strives to offer innovative and experimental art experiences, as well as new spaces for community interactions. The exhibitions at SAM since the move to Tanjong Pagar have been bold, interdisciplinary, and technologically driven. I'd like to talk a bit about some of these exhibitions for a bit. So several exhibitions at SAM manifest our long-term interests and curatorial research on material intelligence. This research seeks to explore how artists today connect long-standing modes of art making associated with craft and industry to speculate about our ecological and technological futures. In 2022, for example, we exhibited an immersive sculptural and video installation by Thai artist Korakrit Arunandonchai, a machine boosting energy into the universe. The show explored the togetherness of humans, machines, and spirits in 21st century Bangkok, a city where animistic energies and advanced technologies coexist in everyday life. At the start of 2023, SAM staged a multimodal installation and performance by Singapore-based artist and poet Ju Chun Lin, whose work explored the relationship between consciousness and technology of representations. Well, the exhibitions and programs at National Gallery Singapore and SAM also respond to and align with the national strategies for heritage and the arts as developed by the National Heritage Board and the National Arts Council, which I mentioned earlier. So the role of the National Heritage Board is really to grow and develop the museums in Singapore, in particular heritage museums, while the role of the National Arts Council is to grow artists as well as audiences. So recently, they both published these two plans, as you can see here. The NHB published our SG Heritage Plan, and NAC published our SG Arts Plan. So NHB's new plan is organized into 4 strategic areas of growth: bolstering the identity of Singapore society, strengthening communities, building industries, and developing a future-ready heritage sector through innovation. And running hand in hand, the NAC's SG Arts Plan envisions building a creative city that inspires people through 3 strategies: building a connected society, invigorating and diversifying arts and cultural spaces in order to construct a distinct city, and building a creative economy powered by artistic talent and innovation. The National Gallery Singapore's comparative exhibitions and SAM's technology-driven shows, Outreach and Learning, SAM's Everyday Museum, as well as a commitment to making use of new technologies such as the metaverse to expand audience engagement, which I'll elaborate on more further, align with the national key strategies outlined by the NHB and NAC on bolstering identity, growing diverse audiences, and developing new technologies. As an institution with a focus on historicizing modern and contemporary art in Singapore and Southeast Asia, National Gallery Singapore's major comparative exhibitions, like Reframing Modernism, Minimalism, Between Worlds, and the one that just opened recently, Tropical, Stories from Southeast Asia and Latin America, demonstrate our continued commitment to locating the development of modernism in Southeast Asia within the global context, and decentering the discourse of modern art from the West by highlighting propositions of modernity and modernism from the global South. Our latest exhibition, Tropical, is the first large-scale museum exhibition to take a comparative approach towards art from Southeast Asia and Latin America of the 20th century. The multiple understandings and perspectives of art history provided by these comparative shows serve as a way to understand Singapore's identity as a society in relation to the global. While Sam's recently opened show of Ho Zunyan, who I think is no stranger to Japanese audiences, and he opened the show titled Time and the Tiger, in which he investigates the construction of Singapore's history through myths and the polarity of identities, aided by his interdisciplinary practice, the use of technology, and video installations. Ho is one of the most internationally recognized contemporary artists from Singapore, having represented the Singapore Pavilion at the 54th Venice Biennale in 2011. National Gallery's Singapore Learning and Outreach Program have been designed with the goal of growing and sustaining diverse audiences and communities to bring art closer and more accessible to different segments of society. Our museum and learning outreach team is dedicated to fostering curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, and empathy through art in order to nurture an inclusive society of lifelong learners. Some of our most important learning programs are designed to engage young audiences and connect them with local and Southeast Asian artists. There are 2 that I would like to introduce in particular: the Gallery's Children's Biennale and the Light to Night Festival. The Gallery's Children's Biennale has been a key program of the National Gallery Singapore since 2017. It embodies the Gallery's commitment to inspiring young, curious minds and aims to explore the many ways children can learn and play while also engaging more with the world around them. The latest edition of the Biennale, which has run from May 2023 until March 24, features interactive and immersive artworks responding to the theme of Let's Make a Better Place, build upon core values of care, respect, imagination, and collaboration. To complement the artists' installations, myriads of performances and workshops were designed to further engage with children with art and making practices that manifest the Biennale's core values and mission to foster an inclusive society. Light Tonight is a visual art festival that seeks to inspire audiences to develop profound connections with art through dynamic and progressive programs. The festival serves as a stimulating, accessible entry point for everyone to interact with art. Focused on the principles of play, ideas, and innovation, the festival commissions public installations, building facade projections, and a diverse array of interdisciplinary programs that involve collaborations with artists and makers from both Singapore and abroad. The rosters of sustained programs and exhibitions gradually increase the number of visitors to National Gallery and SAM and their engagements in physical and online programs, as you can see here. To bring art closer to communities in Singapore, the Everyday Museum, initiated by SAM and the latest edition of the Singapore Biennale, present art in everyday spaces across Tanjong Pagar and Singapore. The Everyday Museum is dedicated to supporting artistic practice in public spaces through artistic commissions of installations, art projects, and programs to create physical and virtual nodes for engagement and interaction, shaping cultural spaces for and with communities. Historically, Singapore's first Biennale was launched in 2006 when Fumio Nanja was the artistic director, and this was part of the anchor cultural event for Singapore's vision to become a global city. In 2022, the 7th edition was named Natasha and was an experimental space for curatorial and exhibitionary practices as it cultivates unexpected and interactive art encounters. The experience of the Biennale expanded beyond gallery spaces to multiple sites across the city, even to the islands surrounding Singapore, as you can see here with Sushi Sulaiman's storytelling program as part of her work on Lazarus Island. Lastly, I'd like to briefly mention National Gallery and SAM's commitment to creative innovations through technology. SAM's exhibitions, such as the ones I have mentioned, and a recent exhibition on artificial intelligence titled Proof of Personhood, make use of and at the same time question the profusion and impact of technology on our contemporary and everyday programs. On the other hand, National Gallery Singapore focuses on historicizing the intersection between new technologies and art in Asia and Southeast Asia through exhibitions, while enhancing the museum experience through augmented reality, digital touchpoints, and other emerging technologies spearheaded by our innovation team, YLab. Currently, National Gallery Singapore and SAM are collaborating in research and developing the metaverse as a future of synergies between art, digital technology, and creative services. Dynamic exhibitions and programs at SAM and National Gallery Singapore are part of the national arts and cultural strategies of fostering societal identity, expanding diverse audiences, and sustaining their engagements, and developing a creative economy through the synergies between art and technology. SAM and National Gallery continue to play a vital role in shaping the public's understanding of various local, regional, and national identities, while actively reflecting on and highlighting the shared histories and challenges. Thank you very much.